You're vegan, aren't you? Four words I was asked in passing 2 years ago that made an irreversible impact on my life. It was true, though. I wasn't eating meat or dairy. I was cutting out foods that had adverse effects on my body, and my stomach pains and inflammation were gone. I had watched a 60-second video called Chicken in Reverse that made me realize I never wanted to eat animals again. One thing I hadn't considered was being categorized. Seriously, when have you ever heard a vegan spoken about in a positive way? It's never, oh, here comes Megan. I hope she brought those vegan brownies. It's more like, I hope she doesn't say anything about this cheeseburger I'm eating, which I don't, because that's not my job. I'll answer questions like, where do you get your protein? Plants, the same place the cow in your burger got his protein. And why go vegan, which is what we'll explore today. First, are there true health benefits to eating a plant-based diet? Then, how is our environment impacted by the foods on our plate? Lastly, I'll explore the ethics of speciesism. Next slide. Our diet is the number one cause of premature death and the number one cause of disability. Are you aware that only a quarter of medical schools offer a single course in nutrition, let alone require it? Doctors are much more well-versed in the prescriptions they write than the foods that can help or harm us. Next slide. This is a still taken from the documentary Game Changers. In this experiment, professional football players were given a meat burrito the first day and a bean burrito the second day. Following the meat burrito, the cloudy plasma shows the fat circulating in the blood, making it more difficult for the blood vessels to work. The translucent plasma is after the bean burrito. These blood samples are from the same person 1 day apart. In fact, one hamburger impairs endothelial function, the ability of blood vessels to expand and contract, by 27%. Next slide. There was a study conducted in a rural Chinese province comprising 500,000 people over 3 years. In that time frame, not a single death could be attributed to coronary heart disease among men under 65 years old. In the United States, about 2 in 10 deaths in adults under 65 years old is from coronary heart disease. Low rates of heart disease in rural China has been attributed to the extraordinarily low cholesterol levels among the population. How does that happen? Their diet is centered on plant-derived foods, grains, and vegetables. No matter your age, you still have a chance to help your body. Next slide. Studies have shown that eating plant-based foods helps your body heal itself and even dissolve away some of the plaque built up in arteries. I'd much rather eat foods on this list recommended than have a burger with a side of Lipitor, the cholesterol-lowering statin, whose side effects can be liver or muscle damage, memory loss, increased chance of developing diabetes, and almost double the risk of developing invasive breast cancer. Next slide. Alzheimer's disease affects about half of Americans by their 80s. It's so common, most of us just associate it with getting old. The Chicago Health and Aging Project studied the correlation between diet and developing Alzheimer's. The study found that trans fats, found in processed foods, meat and dairy, and saturated fats, mainly found in animal products and processed food, multiply a person's chance of getting Alzheimer's and senior memory problems. Spinach, mango, nuts, and seeds are good sources of vitamin E, an antioxidant that has been shown to cut the risk of Alzheimer's. In this case, a supplement won't cut it. The source of vitamin E has to be food. The primary reason diseases tend to run in families may be that diets tend to run in families. Smoking, obesity, exercise, and diet. These 4 facts alone were found to account for 78% of chronic disease risk. Some things are truly genetic, but isn't it better to give yourself a fighting chance? True healthcare reform starts in your kitchen, not in Washington, D.C. Next slide. How is the environment impacted by the foods we eat? Animal agriculture is the second leading cause of climate change. According to Greenpeace, the Amazon rainforest is home to 10% of all plant and animal species known on Earth, and it covers 2.6 million square miles. The Brazilian Amazon has lost more than 18% of its rainforest, an area the size of California, in the last 40 years to illegal logging, soy agriculture, and cattle ranching. The global population has doubled in the last 50 years, while the amount of meat produced has nearly quadrupled. How can this be possible? Why isn't the global community in outrage over the depletion of protected natural resources? The power of narrative. Climate change has an over there feeling. We can't see the imminent threat and destruction, so it isn't as engaging. Most attempts to narrativize the climate crisis are either science fiction or are dismissed as science fiction. Next slide. The truth is, we cannot save the planet unless we significantly reduce our consumption of animal products. Globally, humans use 59% of all the land capable of growing crops to grow food for livestock. 60% of all mammals on Earth are raised for food. 70% of the antibiotics produced globally are used for livestock. About 80% of deforestation occurs to clear land for livestock and grazing. If we defy the odds and limit global warming to below 2 degrees Celsius, we will still be in a less hospitable world than we are now. Warmer oceans will irreparably damage 99% of coral reefs, disrupting ecosystems for 9 million species. Sea levels will rise by 1.6 feet, making dozens of large cities uninhabitable, causing a projected 143 million people to become climate migrants. The 10 warmest years on record have occurred since 2005. The 4 highest impact things an individual can do to tackle climate change are to eat a plant-based diet, avoid air travel, live car-free, and have fewer children. The easiest and quickest way to make a difference is to keep animal products off of your plate. Next slide. Not all animals are raised on land. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations reports that the aquaculture industry is growing 3 times faster than land-based agriculture. Nearly half of all fish consumed worldwide each year are raised on land or ocean-based aqua farms. One might assume that farmed fish is better for the environment than wild caught, but it takes 5 pounds of ocean fish fed to farmed fish to produce 1 pound of farmed fish. A 2-acre salmon farm produces as much waste as a town of 10,000 people. Most of that waste goes into the ocean, harming and even killing native plants and creatures. Next slide. Unfortunately, commercial fishing is also very harmful to the planet. There is no way to police sustainable fishing. The dolphin safe checkmark on tuna cans is a source of income for the company that hands them out. Next slide. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is 1.6 million square kilometers, twice the size of Texas. 46% of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is abandoned commercial fishing nets. Can you imagine the panic and outrage if Texas was nearly covered with trash? People would be coming thousands of miles to help with the cleanup. But the ocean? Out of sight, out of mind. The more we support animal agriculture and fishing, the more we contribute to the destruction of our planet. Next slide. Oppressing animals is the gateway drug to oppressing humans. That society can arbitrarily decree that one sentient being can live, but another must die. We plant the first seeds of discrimination and oppression against all beings. Alex Hershaft survived Auschwitz as a child and founded the Farm Animal Rights Movement, or FARM, in 1977, 3 years before PETA was founded. Yet over the past 44 years, the rate at which animals are force-fed, medicated, inseminated, and slaughtered continues to increase. Next slide. I truly believe people want to save animals and wouldn't purposefully hurt an animal. But does something being legal also make it moral? We speak with our money, and we buy an animal-based product. We are paying for someone to harm an animal. The inclusion of a victim removes any possibility of moral justification. Next slide. But our ancestors ate meat. Why would we base our morality on the actions of a primitive society where absence of choice, eating animals, was essential to their survival? And let's be honest, our ancestors gathered much more than they hunted. Next slide. What about organic meats? Organic standards do not include regulations about the treatment of animals. Organic and non-organic turkeys are bred to be slaughter ready at just 18 weeks old. Right about the same age humans start rolling from their back to stomach. The turkeys are so obese from their specially formulated food that their legs cannot handle the weight of their bodies. Next slide. What about free-range eggs? Britain's Happy Egg Company is one of the largest free-range egg producers in the UK. Free-range means that instead of individual cages, the chickens are sequestered into large sheds with no real room to roam. Majority, if not all, of the birds filmed on farms supplying Happy Egg Company had been debeaked. The extremely sensitive tip of their beak was cut off to prevent the chickens pecking each other in such close quarters. Factory farm chickens lay 24 to 30 times as many eggs as wild chickens due to selective breeding, then are sent to slaughter around 18 months old. About the same age human toddlers are beginning to run and say their first words. The same fate as the turkeys, with 4 times longer suffering. Next slide. The leather industry is no better. More than 1.4 billion cows, sheep, and goats are killed each year for leather. Animals are exported for slaughter, and their skins are shipped all over the world. After days or weeks on ships, some are so weak or injured that they no longer have the strength to stand up, so they're hoisted off the ship by a crane, their entire weight hanging by one leg. Do we really need to exploit these trusting and loving animals for shoes, bags, jackets, and couches when there are so many alternatives to leather? Next slide. Not only do fish farms hurt the environment, they're inhumane. On fish farms, high-volume systems control food, light, and growth stimulation. Genetic engineering is used to accelerate growth, and hormones may be injected into the fish to change their reproductive behavior. To increase profits, fish farmers cram as many fish as possible into the smallest space possible, preventing proper swimming conditions, causing sores and damaging fins from the fish knocking against each other. Large farms can span the size of 4 football fields and contain more than 1 million fish. In the United States, there are no regulations to ensure the humane treatment of fish. Nearly 40% of farmed fish die prematurely from parasitic infections, diseases, and debilitating injuries. Fish who survive are starved before they are sent to slaughter in order to reduce waste contamination of the water during transport. Salmon, for example, are starved for up to 10 days. Commercial fishing unintentionally kills 300,000 whales and dolphins each year around the world as bycatch, caught in commercial fishing nets when fishing for different animals. Endangered sharks and sea turtles also get trapped in these nets. Between farm and commercial fishing, more fish are killed for food each year than all other animals combined. In 2011, more than 22 billion fish and shellfish were killed in the United States alone. Next slide. Every day, we make innumerable decisions, from what to wear in the morning to what to have for dinner. Make sure your decisions reflect your moral values. Next slide. With all of this information, you may be wondering, what can I do? Load up on produce and take it one meal at a time. Watch a documentary or two. I recommend Game Changers and Seaspiracy. Both are available on Netflix. Read some articles and books to inform yourself. Instead of imagining all the meals ahead of you, focus on the meal in front of you. Don't give up burgers for the rest of your life. Just order something different this one time. It's hard to change lifelong habits, but it's not hard to change a single meal. Over time, those meals become your new habits. Initially, I asked, why go vegan? Will it be to help prevent yourself from dealing with chronic disease? Will it be to slow the destruction of our home? Or will it be because your choices on your dinner plate reflect your own ideals and philosophy on animal rights? I say, why not go vegan? It could truly save your life and countless lives of others.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmony UU podcast. Check us out online at harmonyuu.org for more details. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search Harmony UU. If you're in the Cincinnati area, please stop by one of our services on the first and third Sunday of each month at 10 a.m.